Welcome back to The Cooperative, the podcast for young professionals in Michigan's credit union industry who are out here trying to connect, grow, and basically take over the cooperative finance universe, one episode at a time. As always, we're powered by Fuel Michigan, because even podcasts need a hype squad. Whether you're tuning in on your commute, at your desk pretending to look very productive, or with a cup of coffee that may or may not be your second or your third, I'm really glad you're here. I'm your host, Camille. Now let's get into it before your coffee gets cold.
Today, we have Sydney Tennant, who is a branch manager at Michigan Legacy Credit Union, and her journey to the credit union is such a unique story. Believe it or not, she started out working as a foreign currency exchange while studying architecture. But 11 years ago, she took a chance on a credit union, and that decision completely changed her career path. Since then, Sydney has worked her way up from teller to MSR, lender, assistant manager, and now branch manager. She even spent some time in banking, but quickly realized her heart was with credit unions. Sydney's passion about sharing her experience to inspire others and show just how special this industry really is. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Camille. I'm really excited to share my story and talk about what I've
Yay.
learned as a young professional in this industry.
Excited.
Me too. And I'm very excited to show why credit unions are an incredible place to build a career. My journey into credit unions certainly was not planned. In fact, my big dream was designing Victorian homes with gingerbread trim, princess towers, and stained glass windows, but life had a different plan for me. And I'm very happy about how things fell into place, and it was in a way that I never expected.
I love those old-fashioned houses too. You want it to be like the renewal of them, kind of, it seems.
Yes, I would even build one from scratch, but that's not what they wanted me to do.
Darn. How did you go from doing that and you were working with foreign currency exchange? So I'm assuming because you're over on the Detroit side and it had to do with that, or how did you
Yes.
even get there and then go to credit unions?
So honestly, I'm going to school for architecture, and like I said, the reality just did not match the dream. There were no princess towers at school. So I'm working at a grocery store and a restaurant, just kind of feeling like, what did I get myself into? And one day my dad called me, who was apparently doing some secret shopping for a friend at a foreign currency exchange. He told me that the manager there needed a teller and he could give me an interview. So I took a chance, not knowing anything about the industry. And to my surprise, I ended up falling in love with the financial world. Not many people will admit this, but something really sparked in me when I got audited. I just went from like working in chaotic restaurants with zero reward to a job where accuracy, consistency, and responsibility actually meant something. I remember being just so new and impressionable, and I'm standing in the corner while my risk officer literally has my chair upside down, checking to see if the wheels were safe, and an auditor was watching camera footage, counting to see how many times I walked away from my drawer without locking it, which wasn't a good number at the time. But other than that, I was always accurate. And for the first time, I felt like I could showcase my talent. I liked being put under a microscope, and it gave me a deeper understanding of why I was told to do the things that I was doing. After some time there, I realized two things. The sales culture was becoming toxic, and the company structure meant I had no real career path going forward. So the business was headquartered overseas, and promotions didn't exist locally. I knew I loved the work, but I couldn't stay in this environment long term. So I started applying to banks, and honestly, a lot of them didn't take me very seriously. They saw a foreign currency teller and tried to argue that I didn't have relevant experience. They didn't understand how complex and high risk that job actually was. I handled over 80 different currencies. There were really strict regulations, constant
Oh my
audits,
God.
and thousands of dollars a day. But on paper, it just wasn't translating to them. So from there, the only people who ended up seeing my potential were the ones at my local credit union. They took a chance on me when nobody else did, and that really meant a lot. My time there was excellent. I'll always give them credit for the success that I have today, but their union held me back from growing. So after a few more years, I moved into banking to broaden my skills. And the bankers, they had a weird bias against me from coming from a credit union, just like they did about the foreign currency exchange. But I did learn a ton. And what I learned most importantly was that banks are where you pick up experience, but credit unions are where you can build a career. And that's how I got here.
I had no idea like foreign currency would be so strict. I mean, it makes sense now that you
Yes.
say it. but I never would
will
have even thought
say,
of that.
so one thing that was crazy was like we just had to be able to identify all these different currencies, and counterfeits were still a risk. Like you just had to
Mhm.
be able to successfully identify a random currency from another country and make sure that it's real. And then there's no account, so it's not like you have a regular you can watch the cameras and be like, "Oh, we know for sure that I accidentally shorted Joe $5." It was not like that. Your person was on a plane and they were overseas and there was no retrieving that money. And not to mention, if you exchanged at the wrong rate, identified the wrong currency, you could have been out hundreds or even thousands of dollars for that matter.
I feel like that's a huge risk, like high pressure risk.
Yes, it was very scary, and they had very high turnover rate because of those things. Just like at a credit union, people would come in with ill intent. They'd come in with fake currencies, and so it was something that you really had to be diligent about. And I liked all of that about working there. But like I said, no room to grow, and just it was kind of like a toxic sales culture.
I would fail spectacularly at that job, I feel like. I love foreign currency, but I feel like I would fail at that, and yeah, I love auditing too, like, that's part of my job, and I'm like, "Oh, I'd love to audit," but I feel like having to be audited at that, no, thank you.
It really put in perspective just, like I said, what I was doing. I guess before it was just do this, do that while I'm new and I'm just trying to digest all the information. But then when the auditor came in, I just felt like this is why I'm doing this. Like it clicked and I just really loved it for some reason. So for the longest time, I wanted to go into auditing. I don't know if that's what I want to do now.
It's definitely not for everybody. I like puzzles though, so that's my thing.
Yes.
What was the turning point that made you feel credit unions are your spot? Because you were there and then you went to credit union and then bank and back. And what made you say, like, I really want to do credit unions?
It was honestly more of a collection of experiences that made me feel that way. One thing was seeing firsthand how little flexibility banks had when it came to helping people. The lending was very strict, goals were rigid, and at some of the institutions I worked for, it just felt predatory. So I worked in areas where credit scores were low and incomes weren't very generous either. I'd take a loan application, look at their DTI, and know exactly what underwriting was going to do. They were just going to deny it. Even if
Right.
it was a person who desperately needed help, they just weren't getting pushed through. But oftentimes with denials, I'd refer them right back to a credit union to strengthen their scores because I knew someone there would be able to take a chance on them. And my manager knew that it was happening. I was doing it all the time. So if we couldn't help, I just wanted them to know that there were people out there who could. And then another bothersome time was when interest rates were at historic lows and we were being pushed to sell home equity line of credits instead of home equity loans, even when the fixed loan rate might have been better long term for the borrower. I do want to clarify they weren't like forcing us to do HE locks, but we just didn't even talk about HE loans. As somebody who is a new lender, I didn't even know anything about the terms of the HE loans because they were so interested in us pushing the HE lock, right? Because they knew the rates would go back up and they would make more money. So when the rates did start going up, we started running promos like a fixed rate for 6 months, knowing full well that when the promo ended, the rate would jump. And yes, everything was in their loan terms, but there's just a lack of financial education. So a lot of people were devastated by these changes. And even though I wasn't in credit unions at the time, so I don't know exactly what they were doing. I realized that I missed working in an environment where my peers would slow down and ask questions and actually guide and educate people instead of just following sales tactics to reach goals. I did what I could after I learned the hard way, but I was also just one person. And it took seeing it come full circle to realize the consequences of what we were doing. My values align more with the credit union mission, people helping people, not just pushing products. And don't get me wrong, we have many beneficial products and services to provide to members, but it should always be in their best interest.
It sounds like, and I feel like banks have a habit of doing it, or predatory lenders not reading the fine print, or they're banking on that. My pun. They're saying
Yes.
they're depending on people not to read the things and then have it happen. And yeah, it's not fun to watch.
Absolutely. And even as an employee, like being trained on going over the loan docs and things like that, there were a lot of sections where we just would kind of tell the people who were coming in, like, we're expediting the loan packet. Like, I encourage you to read it. This is what this section goes over. I can read it for you in full depth right now if you'd like me to. And that was it. So, I mean, a lot was like, it's not that it wasn't there, but I feel like they kind of knew what they were doing. So,
Mhm.
and then you have people who had their homes for a long time, and all of a sudden they got a home equity loan because of an emergency, and all of a sudden they can't afford their house at all because the interest rates spiked so high.
Happened to my grandparents. That was rough to watch.
It's very sad.
My grandparents ended up doing a reverse mortgage, which not a fan of. That
Yeah.
was it's rough to see that, and I think that's why I do like credit unions, even though I'm not in the lending aspect at all. I
Right.
do love that we actually will look at more than just DTI, more than just credit score.
Exactly. And I don't feel like we really even entertained. I mean, of course, if somebody wanted to do a loan application, it was pushed through. But I just feel like the focus was on the loans that were collateralized with homes and, in particular, the ones that were revolving lines. So it's just kind of sad in retrospect to see how many people it did affect now that the rates have gone up so much since COVID. So that really
Yeah.
left a bad taste in my mouth.
I lucked out with my house. I have a 3 point I think it's like a 3.5 rate right now, and
That's a
I
good.
am aware of how lucky I got. I was like, "This starter house will be my forever home."
Yeah,
No, thank you. I
I
will never
understand that.
refinance.
Yeah. I mean, you chances are you can't get any lower than that. So, I
Um,
feel like I can't move either.
or I'm just gonna be stuck here forever.
Yes.
Such is life, unfortunately. How do you think we can better educate others about credit unions, whether it be young professionals or just our members or the community? How do you think we can go about educating them a little bit more?
I don't think that young people even realize how many different paths exist in credit unions. There's HR, lending, risk, marketing, plastics, compliance, tech, leadership, like the list goes on. And there's so much more than being a teller. And don't get me wrong, I don't mean that in a negative way. So often entry level employees feel like they're just a teller, but they're really just like the foundation of it all. So
Mhm.
we need to share real stories just like this. I think we should do some recruiting outside typical channels like restaurants, retail, community colleges, and just kind of be honest about our mission and the career potential. When I started before, I didn't know anything about credit union rights or what the difference was between a credit union and a bank until I went to a bank and I learned the hard way, right? So maybe I would have never even left for the banks before if I had a good understanding of what I was doing. Um, and we need to empower our employees and make the career path visible for them. So many of us didn't choose this industry, it just found us. And I think that that speaks to the problem. If young professionals knew they could literally start as a teller and become a CEO, which isn't unusual in our world, I think we'd see a whole new generation of talent gravitate towards credit unions.
I agree 100%. I mean, I think of credit union or bank and I think, oh, it's a teller and it's a lender. And you never know. A lot of people don't realize like the risk factor of it or the behind the scenes. Like you only see a handful of employees, but in reality, there's two, three times more working behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
What do you think have been some of the most rewarding moments being in the credit union so far?
The moments that I never forget are when somebody expects a no and then they get a yes. So for our first time car buyers, debt consolidation, people rebuilding credits, or just a young person getting a credit card, helping members who are denied everywhere else, especially at the banks. In
Yeah,
management, our internal wins are just as rewarding too. Training my team so they can reach their own goals and just seeing somebody's confidence bloom are just some of the reasons why I love leadership. And I think one of the most rewarding moments is realizing that at that first credit union that believed in me did so before I even believed in myself. And that changed my entire career.
what's your favorite part about being in leadership?
Honestly, like I said, I really love training my team and just seeing them blossom because as somebody who worked from the bottom to somebody who's worked to where I am, and I've been in so many different positions, I can just relate to them so much. I know what they're feeling on those tough days and I can put myself in their shoes and I just want to be able to support them. There were a lot of times where I was in their shoes and I didn't have somebody to support me. So getting to be that person that I needed when I was a younger me really means a lot to me.
I
Thank
feel
you.
leadership is there's definitely a difference between leadership and management and allowing them to grow more and nurturing that. What about community impact? How do you feel about that? What does that mean to you? How do you see credit unions, whether it be Michigan Legacy, sorry, or any other ones with the community?
I think that Credit unions are able to impact communities by showing up long before somebody even just asks for a loan. Here at Michigan Legacy, we do encourage our staff to participate in events, attend different meetings in the neighborhood, work with small businesses, and those are just some of the places where the big banks will send a sponsorship check and not their people. So this year, actually, Michigan Legacy won an award for our community impact. Our team brought an apple orchard to the Children's Hospital in Detroit. We showed up to all our local Rotary meetings, volunteered at events that supported young women and disabled adults. We brought live music into our community all summer. We donated foods to families, collected books for children. And right now, some of our team members actually went out and went shopping because we adopted some families for Christmas. So I mean, our team made an amazing impact this year. And if you imagine this from all the credit unions all throughout the country, that's just how we're fulfilling that mission.
I love that. We have an adoptive family this year too, and I'm so excited.
Very sweet. It's so nice to see everything come through and just be able to actually help them.
Yeah. We did a women's shelter for See You Kind Days who we help. And I cried so hard because I'm fortunate enough to not have had to go to a shelter. And I've been fortunate enough where, presents at Christmas wasn't a worry for my mom as much as it is. And so I cried so hard at the shelter and every time we do things. And I'm like, I'm so glad I could help somebody else. Or
Very
there's
nice.
the angel tree TikToks that are like the trendy thing right now. I watch them
Yes.
like all the time. I'm like, yes, more people.
I understand. The No Child Without a Christmas also had me crying. It's just so sad to think about, once the stuff started coming through and you just see how many families are in need in your own community. And then
Mhm.
it's kind of the same thing that's all across the country. There's just so many people, and that just shows the importance of what we do. I wish I could do more for everybody.
I wish we had unlimited budgets and we could just do it all. Like that would be my ideal.
Yes,
I love that you guys won an award for that and that you guys actually show up. We do the same thing and encourage people to actually go and be there because you can write a check all you want. That's not showing your community.
exactly. Thank you so much.
Of course. What keeps you motivated in all of this?
What inspires me is honestly every single day feels like a chance to make a tangible difference, and not in like a corporate way, but in ways that people can actually see. And that's from our community impact, the lack of Wall Street and shareholders, and just helping members without any judgment. So to bring this full circle, I've remained motivated by my opportunities as well. Been able to grow, learn, and move up in ways that I never expected when I was a college student working two jobs. Credit unions reward hard work and curiosity. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to care. And I love knowing that I get to grow while helping other people grow.
What was your favorite position you held, like in all of it?
Honestly and truly, I love being a manager right now because, like I said, I just get to be the person who I needed when I was in their shoes. And I try to reflect that mindset into all of my work. So when days are frustrating and they're tough, I don't want to be treated some of the ways that I was treated while I was going through it all. So I work really hard to just try to stay emotionally intelligent and show up for my team and be there to help them because they deserve it.
That sounds like you're an awesome leader.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
My supervisor is the same way. It's nice.
Yeah.
Be the fear to not like I imagine because you are that way that your people are not afraid to come to you and because sometimes you have. I mean, I've been at Harbor like almost 8 years now, and it took me a good like 5 years to break the habit of what did I do when somebody calls me
Yes.
into the office.
I understand that feeling so well because of my prior experiences. And that's what I have
Mhm.
to tell myself now is I'm not in those prior experiences and I'm being the change that I want to see. So, but it is hard when we've had all these people in the past who have treated us poorly and treated everybody else poorly because sometimes power just gets to people's head.
That is very true. We talked a lot about the community impact and all of that in your why. Do you have at least a one specific of why you continue to do it outside of your team? As kind of something I've been asking everybody, but we kind of already talked about that. So, any other stories or reasons why, or specific memories that have kind of stuck with you over your time and been like, yeah, I this is why I'm loving what I'm doing.
I really don't have a specific example, but it is just all of my prior experiences of working at these companies that were oftentimes predatory and coming back into this field just put it in perspective that I didn't understand about like going and advocating for credit union rights and things like that until I went and I worked for a bank and I came back and I saw how dangerous it is for us to lose that not-for-profit tax status and things like that. So it did actually really change me and my outlook on just the work that I produce and the things that I do because I know that I don't work for a terrible mega corporation company. Going from one extreme to coming back is just like a breath of fresh air, honestly. It's really amazing to be part of the community and truly be part of the community.
Making a difference as well.
Yes.
That's all the questions I have for you. All
Thank you so much
right.
for this opportunity. I really
Of
appreciate
course.
it.
Of course. Nice talking to you.